All right, thank you so much for joining us for this second discussion this morning on the program to enable us to look at the system that throws up leaders, as we say, in this country. When people are vying for elective positions, what are the systems that leads to the emergence of these people? What do the political parties in particular look at to determine those who are even eligible in the first instance to go to the field and vie for their tickets? Those are the issues we want to quickly address on the program this morning. I'll begin with my guests here. First, from my immediate left is Solomon Idiogbe. He's a member of the APC here in Edo State. Thank you, Solomon, for coming.
Good morning this morning.
Good to have you.
Thank you very much.
And next to him is a legal practitioner, Dennis Society. He has always said that he watches from the sidelines, is interested in good governance, and he wants to see it happen in this state. We appreciate you, Barrister Society.
Thank you very much for having me.
On the program.
Thank you very much.
Morning. I'd like to begin with you because you are a Nigerian, you are an Edo person, you are a professional, and you are interested in good governance, as I already said. When you look at the crop of leaders that were produced over time in this country, what do you denote from the processes that throw them up?
Yeah, for me, the process is as important as the outcome
Itself.
Yes, you know, and over time, what we have observed, that some of us observing from the byline, is that the process is fraught with so much irregularities, you know, to the extent that for a lot of persons who are professionals, who are thoroughbred, they are even scared of even throwing their hat in the ring, because the processes that leads to the emergence of these candidates is either being monetized with all manner of shenanigans. So you begin to question whether or not these persons that eventually emerge as kind of these political parties, whether or not these parties even have the moral rights to even begin to vie for positions of trust in the public. So for us, for me as an observer, I begin to question the rationale even behind the formation of the political party, because they are no ideologies. A group of persons, money bags just comes together because they have the money, they register a political party, and then they throw up a manner of persons with questionable credentials and qualifications over time, and then these persons are sold to the public and then they become their political leaders. So the courts have over time also begun to intervene to start questioning as basic as their academic credentials. As basic as their academic credentials. Because there is no system, there is no institution in place to throw up this leadership. And then these political parties over time just like in an haphazard manner begin to throw up people with various questionable characters. And that's why we have continued to advocate that for us to get the governance of the entire structure, structure right, there must be a total overhaul of the processes involved or engaged in the throwing up or emergence of candidates in political parties. Until we do that, we are still going to be in a circle that we are in today. So.
I'm very glad you already mentioned the court intervening in many of these cases. It turns out you're a lawyer. That's beautiful.
Very well.
A lot of persons have said, look, that courts would even have to intervene in the electoral process. Internal workings of a political party is a fundamental error. How much of that sentiment do you share?
I disagree completely, because political parties, like I told you, they are political formations are, they are creations of laws. And for you to even become a political party, you must have certain fundamentals or documents guiding your conduct. Right. So if, for example, you have a constitution, and that constitution has been registered and declared your working documents, and you refuse to abide by the tenet of your constitution, the court has a duty to whip you into line, because we are not in a banana republic. We are in a country governed by laws. So if a political institution or a political party have its own constitution and they refuse, because of their selfish interest, to abide by those principles in their constitution, I think the court has a duty to whip them into line. And that's what the court have been doing even in Nigeria.
Okay, just before I come to Solomon Idiogbe, let's quickly remind everyone that we'll be joined by Harrison Izeka via phone. Harrison Izeka is the Councillor of Ward 2 in Oredo here in Edo State. Solomon, you are a politician. Are our parties structured to throw up the best hands in this country in terms of leadership?
Well, if you say structured to bring up the best hands, of course the parties will say yes, because that's why they bring out their best during contestations.
And that's the problem, because best is relative, isn't it?
Now, you thank God you said relative, because, for instance, in the just concluded primaries of both political parties, in the major political parties, so to speak,
Yes.
we have one supposedly not seen as the best in Party A being taken in Party B as still the best. So, you agree with me that the word best is relative.
But how do we just oppose that with the reality in Nigeria? I mean, what should best be, ideally, in Nigeria?
An ideal best is the best of the best. An ideal best is somebody who has, like my brother has mentioned, has no skeleton, has no political deficiency, no moral deficiency, no intellectual deficiency, and in all aspects, it's viable, sellable, reliable, dynamic, in all aspects. But well, of course, like we have seen lately, political parties, some political parties will, of course, look beyond that. Like he also mentioned, and I agree with him totally, that over time we have seen political parties going for money bags. We have seen political parties going for sentiments rather than products or viability or responsibility or accuracy, if you like. So I think that there are a lot of issues. So when you use the word best, like you said, it's relative. So my best may not be your best. But, well, of course, over time, it is just like the normal saying that nothing buried under the earth will not be revealed. Either the sun does, or the rain does, or the wind would reveal it someday. So political parties are actually, by the constitution, structured. Now, in answer your question very correctly, structured to produce the best.
In principle.
Yes. And that is why, prior to the elections, you have guidelines set up by political parties to see through a candidate emerging as their flag bearer. For instance, one of such criteria is academic qualifications, even though the basic is primary 6, as it were, going by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But, you know, they try to set up some other guidelines. You'd have clear knowledge of your political party. You may have been a card-carrying member of that political party over a period of time and all that. Then as a proviso, you could also have the political party, like in the case we saw recently, having to say we need to do waivers when the need does arise. You understand? And all these put together are but geared towards getting a viable candidate. And that is why in contestations, you have like 4 or 5 candidates contesting. Then they go through screening process. They have what you call appeal process of the screening
within the party.
And that's where I tend to disagree with my brother when he said the legal system. When you say legal system, I'm talking of the judiciary has a right to whip you. Yes, whip you, not in all cases. Because the primary function of a political party on membership and processes of emergence of their candidate is supposedly and is the primary duty of that political party. Because if you allow certain issues to become legal tussle, over time you discover political parties will not be able to produce flag bearers.
Why so?
Why so? For instance, you saw prior to the primaries that happened recently.
In Edo State?
Yes. Some persons were going to court to want to undo some of their co-contestants. But thank God to certain pronouncement or certain judgments that had happened before now, as in the case of Supreme Court, making it clear. And even recently, when we saw a purchase of, in quotes, of injunctions and counter-injunctions, this, for instance, the judiciary had put a stop to, that prior to the primaries of these political parties, they have a right to do, it's just like, I'm telling you that your name is Uyi, and this is the meaning of your name. It really wouldn't make sense. You know your name, and you know the reason for why your name was called Uyi. You understand? I think that is the area. Now, political party, of course, without trying to be emotional or sentimental, have really not reached that stage of to say they have it all right in all spheres. But of course, that is not to say that the political system is not evolving. For instance, the issues that had happened in recent past within the political structures and political system in Nigeria has also added very robustly to the legal jurisprudence in Nigeria, because so many cases has happened, so many issues has come to play, and judgments have been had. You understand? And so, for instance, you now know that because some of these issues were initially not provided for, either in the constitution of the political parties or in the constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, or perhaps in the electoral laws. But as these things happen, unforeseen, they are exchanged legally, and then judgments are made, first perhaps at the lower courts, appeal, and then Supreme. Once it's made at the Supreme, like my lawyer would agree,
that bring a closure.
Yeah, bring a closure to it. So, if you ask me again, I'll tell you, it's an involvement. It's democracy in progress. You agree with me that the level we are in today is not the same level we were as at 1999, 2000, or 2005, for instance.
A lot of persons have questioned the speed at which we are making that progress. Hopefully, time will allow us to talk about that a little. But let me come back to Dennis now. You talked about in passing the fact that in a number of cases, the credentials of candidates thrown up by political parties are even questionable.
Absolutely.
What does that say about the internal leadership mechanism of these political parties? Because there's something called due diligence. Is that to say these parties, for the most part, do not do their due diligence?
Yeah, like we found in the case of Bayelsa, you know, particularly reference to the APC in Bayelsa State,
right.
You know, that threw up a governorship, you know, candidate,
deputy,
you know, who was elected, and you know, at the end of the day, of course, there were a lot of issues surrounding his names and his blah 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 and all that.
That's what the deputy.
Yes, deputy governorship, and then eventually you show what happened. That tells you the processes in place, and then the persons who are at the aims of affair of this political party. You know, in that instance, the APC. You know, if they had done their due diligence, if they were sincere enough to obey by the simple rules of engagement, they would have found out that deputy governor had some issues, and then put the house in order to avert that monumental disgrace that happened in the APC. But as usual, like I told you before, we had a system of leadership in this country that even in a democracy, they still believe that they have this, you know, the dictatorial tendencies. It is what a certain national leader says that's the whole sway. It is what a certain national chairman says that holds sway. What a certain cabal in a political, you know, arrangement says that will hold sway. So even when you have a NEPA bill as a certificate, and the leadership of that party says you are their candidate, they will pull the heavens down to ensure that you are made as candidates. So whatever happens afterwards, they can all now bear the brunt. But thank God for the judicial intervention that we have seen in our recent history. The court have now stood up to say no, that whatever you do in the political party would translate to misgovernance.
Ultimately.
That's why the courts are now intervening. So I disagree with my friend here who say the court should not intervene. The court must intervene. But at the end of the day, when there's a dispute, where should they go? They must ventilate it at a court of competent jurisdiction so that this issue will be, you know, dealt with finality. If you don't do that, then you are simply asking for anarchy. You're simply saying that when there's a dispute, people should just go to the window and then slug it out by way of a physical, you know, combat. But we are saying that if the parties do their due diligence, there will be reduction in the, you know, instances of litigation in the courts. But when the parties deliberately refuse to obey their rules and regulation, are you not saying the persons who are aggrieved should not go to a court and then ventilate, like we had in Edo State, where a sitting governor who was cleared in 2016 as competent to run, suddenly that same governor that you sold to Edo people is no longer qualified? and then you through what I call like a Nollywood script, surreptitiously you disqualify that person simply because he had disagreement with one person in the party, and then you know what happened at the end of the day. Are you now saying if the person feels aggrieved, they should not approach a court to have it ventilated? I disagree with my friend here. So parties must begin to obey their simple rules and regulation and do a proper due diligence. If there is any moral question on a candidate, it should be enough to disqualify a person. If somebody is alleged to have been involved in malfeasance, in a grand corruption, why should a party that in its right frame of mind even go ahead to protest the person? That is the question that we keep asking ourselves.
Incidentally, within these parties, within the folds of these parties, we have people, sound lawyers like yourself.
Yes.
Within this party, we have professionals, we have academics, in some cases professors.
I will tell you.
In this party, so why do we still have this kind of situation?
I will answer that very quickly. From my observation over time, in a political gathering, it's a rule of the mob. They don't listen to where the sound advice. In these same states, I argued some time ago on your platform that a national party chairman cannot single-handedly relocate a party secretariat from a particular location to another location without consulting with the state working committee. Thank God, a federal high court recently vindicated me to say that one person cannot just wake up tomorrow and say, I've moved ITV from Igosa to Oluku. No! When it comes to the political party, there are laid down rules and procedures for doing that. So what do you have? In a political gathering, usually a political meeting, they don't listen to sound legal opinion and advice. And I'm sure that party chairman that have not been removed now was advised. He has the benefit of sound legal reasoning. He has the benefit of sound legal opinion. But guess what? They will choose to do what is their whims and caprices. They will choose to do what will benefit them alone, as opposed to what will benefit the political structure in place. And that is why we keep saying that the APC as a political party, for example, promised change in 2015. And that's why people mobilized and supported them. What have they brought to us now? We have now seen that there's a gradual a retreat, there's a gradual descent into anarchy. All those things we complained of in the era of PDP is now being replayed by the APC. But we must continue to hold them to account. We must continue to continue to engage them like this. Continue to suggest to them that if they continue in this manner, a lot of issues will be cropped up, and then that will be a great disservice to the polity. I'm
going to bring Harrison Ezeko in shortly, but let me come back to Solomon because you have to react to this. From what he has said, at least essentially we can deduce that he is saying that there are cases where individuals within the parties are bigger than the parties themselves. Is that the reality?
No, he's just been, of course I want to say he's been a little bit emotional and sentimental. But having said that, it's my opinion from what I think. These are the issues. I listened to him when he talked about funds, fraudulence, and all that. But quickly, let me correct an impression. I didn't say that the judiciary should not intervene on issues of political party. I made particular reference to membership. And conduct of primaries, as in process. Because if we had allowed the judicial interference, I'm sure some political parties today wouldn't have candidates. And so he knows too that the Supreme Court judgment to that effect, and that's only the area I was making reference to. So don't generalize the issues. Having said that, I tried as much as I could, while on the starting point not to cast aspersions on any of his sides. But having raised the dust, I would like to help him. You were indirectly throwing aspersions toward the candidate of the All Progressives Congress. So he talked about financial issues. We forgot very quickly that your PDP chairman, the immediate past chairman of the PDP, and very many other members of the PDP have issues to answer, and also the same case of that you so raised. But I haven't mentioned that. You go as a lawyer also opine to the fact that nobody is said to be a criminal or is given any name or found guilty until so proven by a court. They use the word competent jurisdiction.
Right.
And until that is done, I'm taking it back when a lawyer sits on a platform like this and begin to refer to individuals as having financial issues and questionable financial character, and it makes me see you as partisan and sentimental and emotional. But having said that, you need to know this, that you claimed that a certain person, that Governor Obaseki had an issue with an individual in the party is not correct. He had issues with his political party. Of course, you know, as we speak, in the electoral law, nobody is allowed to carry himself as a lone candidate or an independent candidate. Yeah. You must come from a political party.
Certainly so, yeah.
Now, because that is, Godwin Obaseki came in 2016 via All Progressives Congress. And he owed a duty to follow the tenets of the ruling party. However deviated by actions and by deeds, by omission and by commission, you said when people veer out legal issues, they need to be rooted. And I agree with you.
And he made it categorically clear that it is the judiciary.
Yes. Legal. I use the word legally. And the party felt, if you looked at it, had an issue, the party structure in the state became divided under your leadership. The party never had two structures, but the party started having issues. Claims and counterclaims of party leadership, some in court. And then you have agreed members of the party. And then you started sweeping on the party members. At a point, the party had over 24 members in the Edo State House of Assembly. With your witchcraft, our political deficiency, and immorality.
Whose witchcraft was that?
The governor. Because
that was an extreme thing to say.
Okay, I'm sorry.
To anybody, I'm also a sitting.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, please, you are not the moderator. Please, and I always listen to the moderator. Having mentioned that, as a result of your clear document you sent to the House of Assembly and the maternal inauguration that happened, the party, as we speak today, had only 9 persons inaugurated, as against 24. And the Constitution of the Republic of Nigeria, my brother didn't find it as unhealthy, says clearly that the least membership of the House of Assembly shall be 24. Yet you have 9. Now, these are some of the issues. And now you got to the issue of clearance. Like I started with, the political party has a duty to do due diligence, by way of clearance, by way of when you purchase from, you still all have a room for appeal. Now, it was the same PDP that took the sitting governor to court then, that the document he presented before INEC and that he's parading were not clear, that there are issues with the documents. And with the one my brother mentioned in Bayelsa, and let me also quickly correct, it wasn't the governorship candidate that had the issue.
Nobody said those.
It was the deputy.
Yeah, you corrected it. It was
nobody said those. The governor said it was. Yeah.
And in the end, you discovered that the party needed to put its house in order. And so, while doing clearance, they needed to look at it because knowing the fact that these issues were already before the court of competent jurisdiction, so to speak, and there were issues surrounding it, there was a need for the political party to take an extra look at the document. Perhaps while in court, the party has said certain things they didn't see clearly, maybe because of emotional sentiments or political involvement in 2016, they needed to do due diligence. And now we realized that the man in question had 3 credits, and the issues that surrounded the issue of the NYC certificate, you know the issue of the NYC certificate that was sent the former finance minister packing in this country. And we know what the issue of certificate has
caused. The circumstances were not same.
Yeah, but the issue of NYC.
Yes.
And we are talking
the same issue, different circumstances.
Yeah, but they were all issues of certification. And he mentioned it very quickly just now. Of course, I knew where he was going. Now, and the party needed to take an extra look. And we had issues of the UI, we said we attended and all that.
The school has come to...
Now, excuse me, Uyi, I am going somewhere. The party made its first presentation, which was subject to an appeal panel. If you said that the screening committee, because it was segmented,
Right.
Every party said the decision of the screening committee was not final. It was still subject to the decision of the appeal panel.
Right.
And you said you were not ready to go to the appeal panel. And I want to ask my brother Oyi. Kanosati told me that the document that Governor Obaseki presented to APC was the same document presented to PDP. No. He presented the school SAT. Why did he not present the same issues in question? The same NYC, the same UI documents and all.
Isn't that at the discretion of the government?
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
But the point I'm making is
Absolutely.
that you mentioned just now the issue of the finance minister. Though the same.
Who even voluntarily agreed that she used the third party.
Absolutely.
No,
Yes,
at the age, he said they were not. He said that they were not the same. But they were. The scenarios were there. Same NYC, but the issues as they spelled out. Now, if you thought that okay, I'm having issues with this and it's not clear, you could go to the appeal panel and say, I'm doing withdrawals. You understand? I want to use this, for instance.
Yes.
And then they now deny you. You can now amount it to witch hunt or having issues with individual, but that was not the case. You left and you went to join another political party, and you did not present the same issues that created issues for you in party A. For God's sake, the All Progressives Congress is going for an election and not a selection. The All Progressives Congress is contesting in this election to win and not to lose. They do not want you to throw up the same issues you threw up in 2016 that created issues. And then they did due diligence. If you were a party faithful, you had the appeal, and you went out clearly that you are not doing an appeal.
I'm going to allow you to catch your breath quickly here. I want to bring Harrison in so you can lend his
And also we have to the legal issue that you are
by all means, we'll do all that. Harrison, good morning. Good to have you join us.
Good morning.
Yeah, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Yes. First, let's establish once again for the records that you are a member of the PDP. You are the councillor representing Ward 2 in Oedo. Am I correct?
You're absolutely right. I'm with the governor.
Okay, so let's make sense of the processes that throw up candidates in this country beyond the primaries we have seen in Edo State recently, both the PDP, the APC, and other parties in the state. Are we doing well with those processes?
It's absolutely clear. It's free entry and free exit. The concern of Nigeria gives power to everybody, freedom of association. So if the governor, if those people, the party we all labor for, those who feel they own the party decide to say that they don't need their own governor, a sitting governor, they decide to scale it out. And it got to the place that people that need him so that I can do what they need to do for the state. I think there is no issue about that one. The concern is very clear. You have freedom of association. And the two parties we are talking about, the candidate the APC presented was giving waiver. The candidate of PDP, the government was also giving waiver. So what my brother was talking, I was just laughing. People of us were giving waiver to be able to mix up the candidate with the concern of the two parties. So I think that my brother talking there should begin to get it straight towards the real campaign. We have not found this because the truth has been said. You cannot say that what you said was very good 4 years ago, but 3 years ago, now it's not good again. So the issue before us is no people will decide. The people who want good development in their state will decide on the 19th of September.
Okay, I was not particular. Yeah, Harrison. Yeah, Harrison.
The government knows what is right, and there's no issue.
Okay, thank you. I was not particular about the primaries in Edo State. I was just making reference to that in passing. But what I'm saying is, when you look at the overall political landscape, the electoral space in Nigeria today, the processes that throw up people to run for elective offices, are they sound? Are they robust? Are they credible enough?
It depends on the party. The concern of the party is very clear on how a candidate will emerge. But especially when you have a godfather who wants to put the constitution aside, the interest of the party aside, And you don't want to bring out his own interest for the people. He was that issue. Whether PDP or NPC or any party, the position of those parties are clear on how candidates will emerge. Then the individual, the strong man within the party will go allow the right thing to be done. That is what players in Edo State. So the screening you saw, they have decided what they wanted to do. And their interest to make sure that this person cannot go. It happens everywhere. So it's not the party. The party has the right, they have the sound and the where they are supposed to be done. It's on the Constitution. Then the effect on the actors are the problem. Will they allow the right thing to be done? The question is no, because their interest is not there. So one player will not say it's a matter of interest. When the party says that this is what they want to succeed, they want it to. But if you do it in the right way, what happened with PDP? The candidate the government there, the party has to intervene, they have to talk to them to make sure all of them agree. And it's someone happened during the primaries. The three of them held hands together, they stepped up for the governor. Then the NPC refused to do the same thing. Rather, they wanted to screen in the person they see that will win the primaries. They screen that one so that their own candidates can have their way. So it's not the party. The constitution is clear. It is the actors, the individual within the party, they are the problem.
All right. Harrison, I would like to, at this point, thank you very specially for creating time this morning to lend your voice to this conversation. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
All right. I'm going to allow two of you respond to all of these issues. I think there are two more issues, amongst others, that we must look at before we're done with this conversation. There's the money element in it. Somebody already talked about money here a while ago. That's a lot of times it's about money back. And then you also have the strong man factor that he mentioned just a while back there, where you have individuals so powerful, in some cases practically more powerful than the political parties themselves. We're going to take a look at this issue, everyone, as soon as we're back from this short break. Stay with us.
The world is a global village.
And that's because information travels beyond boundaries.
And on This Morning on ITV, we guarantee unbiased analysis on topical issues
that will educate you,
entertain you.
So join us.
Join us.
Join us. Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Every Sunday to Thursday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. on your ultimate news and current affairs program on television, This Morning on ITV, TMI. Join us.
Okay, no better time to tie it up on the discussion this morning than now. I'm just going to return to Solomon, who was reacting to a point earlier. But I think we need to create a curve quickly. Two things I mentioned before we hit a break. The money bag element. How do we address that? Is there a right possibility we can address it?
Yes, like I said earlier, the political system in Nigeria is evolving. And of course, Rome was not built in it. They won't make reference to America. Of course, America also have their issues. But you know that America is running hundreds of years compared to Nigeria.
So ultimately, America is the gold standard.
I didn't say that. I said they have their own issues.
Okay.
But at least you make reference to American political system, the Democrats, of course, they still have their issues.
They do here.
Yeah, but compared to Nigeria, that's just only a few years, less than hundreds of years that the American democratic system has spent. So, having said that, I think, yes, there are factors that need to be curbed in the political system, especially the issues that have to do with vote buying, undue influence, undue interference, and all that. It's everywhere. I'm glad that Harrison mentioned that it's everywhere. It's not limited to any political party.
But does that make it right?
No, it doesn't make it right. I'll just tell you, let me put it this way, that politics is about factors and facts. The factors and the facts need to marry. When the factor differs from the facts cannot survive. The factors may not also survive. So that is not to say that it is the money bags that actually, in quote, totally determine the say or the factors. Because there are factors, whether you like it or not, you know what you refer to as political stalwarts. You know what's referred to as bigwigs. They have a say. But of course not, I'm sure that was what he was trying to refer to. It should not be outside the confines of the constitution governing the political party. I think these are the areas that we're trying to talk about. But having said that, I think very clearly that we are not doing badly, as much as we are not doing too well. It's a process. You agree with me that before now, the issue of card reader was an issue in Nigeria. whether to use a card reader to conduct elections or not. But as we speak, it's no longer an issue, because as they evolve, the necessity will be there, the needs will be there to address the issues as they evolve. And I'm sure, like I said, the issues that have come up until the judgment in Bayelsa, perhaps we didn't also look at it from that angle at any point. And so there are issues everywhere.
Yes. So you're saying whatever we're experiencing now is only evolutionary?
Yes, it is.
Okay, let me talk to Dennis now. The president, President Muhammadu Buhari, is the de facto leader of the APC at the national level. And recently, he came up at the last NEC meeting and said, look, all of those members within this party who have gone to courts should withdraw those cases. In other words, we can resolve this within the framework of our party. Does that change the fact that parties still do not have largely ideologies in this country? And then you are always going to have a situation where disgruntled members would leave or defect, as you say, some of them starting new parties. What does it all spell for democratic experience?
Yeah, for me, it's not a good thing to talk about, you know, because for me, I think the president's reaction was a knee-jerk approach to the issues.
But it made a difference to the better at all, didn't it?
Well, why is it different? Was a difference too late, you know, because for me it was a
better late than never, they say.
So it was a knee-jerk approach to the issues in place. What were the issues in place? Why did the National Working Committee of the APC, under the then leadership of Comrade Shomole, why did they refuse to call NEC meeting? Why did they refuse to inaugurate the NEC? Why did they refuse? The party constitution has clearly spelled out grievance resolution mechanisms. But the problem we have is the problem of the strong man, a sole administrator of a party. He wants everything to revolve around him and him alone. The NWC is not, it was about him. There was no NEC. Persons who were validly elected to be in organs of a political party were not sworn in. They were refused audience. The mechanism for dispute resolutions in the party were not explored. So it now took the president, who acted, in my opinion, extrajudicially, because the president's intervention is not envisaged by the law. He had to.
It's a matter of sheer necessity.
Absolutely. The doctor of sheer necessity, I said, doctor of sheer necessity. He had to intervene because the APC, under the leadership of Shomole, was at a brinkmanship. It was at a point of verge of total collapse and a point of no return. So the president, in his wisdom, I have always called on the president, being a man of very few words, a man of character, he should have intervened a little earlier. That would have saved us of the agony. Because of us who are lawyers, who are advocates of good governance, it is becoming embarrassing in the Committee of Nations that in Nigeria, after how many years of democratic practice, we still have a situation whereby little things as simple as party primaries, we still have to litigate it up to the Supreme Court. These issues ought not to be. So the president in his wisdom have intervened, albeit a knee-jerk and a little too late, but we are grateful that he intervened at the time he did, and he has now saved the ruling party because the APC was becoming a distraction to the Buhari-led government. Under the leadership of Shomole, was becoming a distraction because there was crisis in Zamfara. There was crisis in River State, there was crisis in Ondo, there was crisis in Edo. So if we now put all these together, it's a major distraction to the governance of the country. So the president of the wisdom now saw it is wise to intervene, and I'm glad he did. And that has now reformatted the structure of the APC to a workable mode. And that's why I don't see that as a relative peace. The second issue that you raised, whether or not the president can by fiat ask members not to go to court, I disagree completely. Because the ground norm of our country is the Constitution. If any person is aggrieved, whether it's a political party or not, that person has an unhindered access to our courts. So whether you are a member of APC, a member of a PDP, if you are aggrieved, if you have been unjustly and unfairly treated by the political structure, you have a constitutional right to go to court, and the president cannot circumscribe that right by simply issuing a fiat to say withdraw all the matters. He cannot do that. The only thing he can do is to appeal to his members of his political party to explore the internal mechanism as established by the constitution. Until that is done, there will be crisis, and they have every right to go to court to have it resolved.
Thank you. 1 minute as we wrap up now. Your reaction quickly.
Yeah, basically, the president's intervention was well articulated, and because when there are issues, of course, when Governor Obaseki came to PDP, he was quick to mention while receiving his card as the leader of the party. The president is the leader of the party at the national level, and there were issues.
So that intervention was timely.
He made his intervention and he made it clear. The president gave, whether you call it a flag, he's the party leader. He's the leader of the party. And as a leader of the party, he has a right to intervene. Your children, of course, you cannot have a home and say it's devoid of rancor. If you have children in the house and you have a wife, even you as man and wife, also most times have issues. Okay. So it doesn't change the fact that, you know, you cannot. So I disagree that Mr. President does not. I mean, he has a right to intervene on issues. Well, if you say it came lately, you are entitled to your opinion.
But he did intervene.
He did intervene. And now, on the issues of generally, I think it's hard time for people, if you are a card carrying member of a political party, or you are a flag bearer of a political party, you must, as a matter of fact, obey the rules and regulations of the party,
which is the constitution,
which is the constitution of the party, and not think that because you hold a position in the party, you have become too powerful to be addressed.
Yes, too powerful for the party. I mean, this is an ongoing conversation. It keeps expanding with each day that passes. Thank you so much, Solomon Idiogwe.
Thank you,
member
so
of the APC, for coming here, and a legal practitioner, Dennis Society. We also appreciate you for making our time.
Thank you very much for having me. God bless you.
Please, as always, remember that the views of our guests on our programs are their respective opinions, and we do appreciate those opinions. I'm Uyag Mofwegwe, live in Benin City. Our coverage here on ITV continues. Enjoy the rest of your day with us.